It's Tuesday. This is Trekland HQ, and we are live. Hey, the first normal Star Trek Las Vegas since 2019? Hang on. That's on today for Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 262. 362. With me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland. And everything else here in the portal, Trekland Treks, all of that for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. Hey, welcome once again for another Tuesday. You can tell I am fresh from Vegas. I'm still a little croaky, but that's kind of par for the course every year about this time. And of course, lots of folks were there, lots of new faces, as always, it seems. Folks, I love to see. I barely got to. Every year is a slightly different slice, but it's always an evolution. And of course, if you're not there, just as with Star Trek San Diego, there's plenty of folks to tell you what's going on. Right here, right now, you're reading all the stories and headlines and quotes and quips, if any. But I just wanted to give you a personal take, as always. And as always, if you're finding your way to Trekland Tuesdays Live for the first time, welcome. You have to know that we've got an awesome community, the TTLers in the chat here. So chime in, let us know where you're from, what's going on, how's the weather, whatever else is happening in you and your Trek world. That's why I do this live here in the afternoon, so we can get as much as the globe in as we can. And in fact, I had that a part of Portal 47 and a lot of the other aspects of things I do. But we've got veterans here who will welcome you with open arms. Just a reminder that if you're on YouTube and Twitch, you're seeing all the comments. If you're on Facebook, you're not. And if you're on YouTube, I would be so gratified and grateful if occasionally you could throw some silver my way, because this is a super chat. I'm monetized, and I will look for those first off, because if you're new to the show, when it's a standard theme day like today, I have a topic, we'll get off on a soapbox, we'll take a mini break, and then I will dive into the chat. So just because I'm not referencing what people are saying in the beginning doesn't mean that we won't get to it. In fact, famously, people mark it, we will back scroll, and I'll start at the beginning of the questions. All right, if you're new. And of course, if you're watching us live later, let me say that again. If you're watching us later on YouTube, welcome. Please leave a comment still. We still get, hopefully, people talking. Hopefully, I'm poking some button somewhere. And maybe someday you can join us live as well on a Tuesday, all right? Listen, everybody, I want to start off with some sad news. And I'm regretful, because this is one of the ones I feel like, not that it's a big thing, not that it doesn't stop the world going, but I was looking for a selfie and I couldn't find one, which is not the point of any of this. The point of this is to say, if you hadn't heard, we've lost another one of our crew. Patty Azataki, who was, of course, Alyssa Ogawa on Next Generation and Generations in First Contact. Lovely lady. She passed Monday. Apparently had a long battle with cancer. She had just been in the series Beef, kind of a second wind for a whole new fandom beyond mostly her theater work. She'd been a director, had an incredible biography there before she ever came to Star Trek, as is wont. You don't get to that pinnacle to get cast if you haven't got a body of work before that. But just a lovely lady. I had the chance to cross paths with her twice, both times in Europe, once at a FedCon back in the aughts, and most recently at the Sci-Fi Ball in 2017. She and Gates were both guests. It was a very sweet idea for guesting at a con. That was our one and only time to get to the Sci-Fi Ball. And just a lovely, sweet, humble, who is just comes out of the theater, has a humble artist perspective. You know, anything on film is, more money, but it's just gravy. And the fact that she had the gift of Star Trek fandom is she's one of those who was, when you're not a headliner, you're not a regular, you're not a showrunner or a head of, you're kind of at first amazed and then bemused at this fame that comes to you. But you never stop being amazed at the family that's out there. And I remember her first time at FedCon was that visit, and she was just gobsmacked. And it's to my regret that especially at those two occasions, I didn't selfie. What is wrong with me sometimes? I just having experienced STLV, I know what that feels like. But again, this is hardly about me and my selfies. Long body work. We loved her, loved her. She was so sweet, which is why a couple of times when Ogawa was turned for the needs of the script, it was shocking a little bit. So anyway, what a talented woman, I should say. Long live, long career. You can read her obituaries in all the places. I was just reading her obituary in Deadline, and they were notified by Kyle Fritz, her manager, who is Jerry Ryan's manager, many others. One thing I didn't realize was he said that Patty was his first client as an appearance manager. So there we go. You learn something new every day. But again, she was 70, and they say, a long battle with cancer. So we're going to miss Patty. I'm glad I got to know her. I got to visit with her at times and watch her reaction to everything Star Trek and to this whole fandom family that embraced her on top of all after a lifetime of work elsewhere. It's one of those phenomena of being, in that Star Trek realm. And it's what Star Trek is different than all the other fandoms. Yeah, there's fandoms and they embrace their actors and sometimes even their writers, but there's nothing like Star Trek. And once again, all the new actors or the recently arrived actors who are on display at Star Trek Las Vegas, far more, Comic-Cons, San Diego. It's like a state fair. I was thinking about this. Comic-Con is like a county fair or a state fair, World's Fair. Star Trek Las Vegas is like a class reunion or even a family reunion. And it's just that different vibe. Yeah, it's crazy and insane, and people are busy, and you see all walks of life, from new fans to veteran activist fans to professionals on camera, the folks behind the scenes, the folks adjacent. You see press and media. It's everyone there, but it's still got that different vibe. Of course, Comic-Con, you've got all different franchises and all. You've got people that aren't in a franchise. You've got independents. It's a Comic-Con. You've still got artists and authors and writers and all of that, but they're from all over the place. You have your little sliver, and Star Trek's certainly a bigger sliver over the years than it had been since 2015, 2016. But Vegas is all Trek all the time. This year was some notables. Terry Metalis brought the 12 Monkeys bunch. We had Galaxy Quest cast there. Yeah, there were some inroads and adjacents. Harv Bennett told me in his last filmed interview, that he thought Galaxy Quest was the best Star Trek movie ever made. So there's that line. But no. And I know some of you on the call today, some of you TTLers in the chat may have been there, maybe one or two. Maybe you're still vacationing before you head home even. Maybe you're still in Vegas or before you head across the pond. Lots of glow, lots of new faces, a lot of people popping up saying it was their first con. That feels like it especially happened Wednesday night, Thursday into Friday. By Saturday, it's the thickest day. There's the most happening. And that was one of the insights we got really early. So every year there's new wrinkles, new things are happening. There'd been a change in personnel at Creation below Adam Malin and Gary Berman, the owners. New people running the talent side, and some folks have been brought in. So here's Ryan and Anne Marie working the lounge stage. Things did not work out this year with Creation and Roddenberry to do a stage. They looked elsewhere, but the secondary stage reached out to Mark Altman, something I've been screaming about for years. But Mark and Darren, they can organize it just fine. They can let that consume their whole weekend. I was glad to be able to play, and best of all, to be able to network with a ton of people over the years, especially the ones that have gone on beyond Star Trek, writers and producers and directors, but just got to a lot of folks and authors on down the line, and a lot of folks we're going to be bringing to Portal 47 on guest night, maybe even open house this year, which I have to get my butt in gear and get going on. Of course, open house happens between October, December. It's our anniversary. We're coming up to our 9th anniversary year this year. It was 9 years ago when I soft launched Portal 47 at San Diego and then Vegas. Whew. Before anyone knew what virtual, streaming, much less this was really. We were doing a free conference call by phone the first couple of months, and then everything blew up. And that was 5 years before COVID and the Zoom revolution. So somebody this weekend was saying I was a pioneer. Well, I mean, I guess kind of, but it still feels weird. It's only been a few years, but things have changed so quickly. And of course, in 2015, there was no second wave of Star Trek, right? From July, August, then to November was the very first bare bones announcement about a new Star Trek on a new streaming channel from Paramount, or from CBS, excuse me. And that Alex Kurtzman would be in charge. And that's all we knew until March when they announced Brian and the Discovery name. So it's always been a thing. But what got us especially, and I love that middle stage. I love the D. Kelly stage. I hate the space. Love what happens there. And for all the hoo-ha and the brouhaha of the main stage and the hall and backstage, I set foot in the main hall once. I never did go backstage to grab people, say hi to Fig. I did that a lot on the others. I got to see a lot of hellos in the signing room, old friends, grabbed some selfies. A lot of people got away from me. One of the things I'm kicking myself is that Lawrence Luckenbill, who we just had on here as a guest, it was such a pleasure. And I think we recorded 2 Trek Files with Lawrence and his wife, Lucy Arnaz, and her connection to you-know-who with Star Trek. I saw him backstage at one of the stages, and I never got over the day he was signing his book, his life story, which has so much about Star Trek V in it, that we got into here. I am just kicking myself that I did not get over. I saw Lucy the first day walking across, and I started to chase after her. Then I realized I was chasing after her, and it looked a little weird. So I said, I'll do it later. And that's the thing about this weekend, this STLV this year, this Trek Vegas. It felt full to the brim. A lot of that was because of the backstage creatives, writers, and designers that were part of the DeForest Kelley stage, and even spilling over into the lounge stage is what it's called now. And that's where I had never had Sandra Piller, Michael Pillar's widow. I've known her for years, but I've never had her as a guest even on Portal, much less anywhere else. And we're going to change that. But we had to sit down with her. It was a pleasure to have a sit down with Andy Richardson Kindred again, who we've had on Portal twice, live at Vegas. Such a force of nature, as well as a 2-time pillar of history. Her book is out now, thank goodness, the full book, From Slavery to Star Trek, Slavery to the Stars, From Slavery to the Stars. And in a panel that was actually Andy's remembrances about Nichelle, we were able to have Nichelle's younger sister come up and join us on stage. And the last 15, 20 minutes were just magical. I wish more people. It's videoed. We're going to see how the video turns out and try to get that out. And of course, everything else we did, James and my canon smoothing panel. And my bit on stage was bigger this year, but everything was bigger this year. And it was almost too full to the fact that, if you've not heard the news, next year, STLV, Star Trek Vegas, is going back to 5 days. I know, right? It was amazing when it went to a 4-day con back in the teens, traditional Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know Dragon Con had been 4 days, but they were using the Monday Labor Day holiday, which had been the tradition. Other cons, like the Worldcon, wherever it was in the year, had been 4. But when STLV expanded to 4 days, that was a big thing. And then for the 50th, it was so brimming, so jam-packed, that they went to 5 days. That lasted a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and then the pandemic hit. And in the comeback from the pandemic, everything was shrunk until we got our bearings again. And apparently we found the bearings, because it truly was. That's not a commercial grab. Well, it could be. Of course it is. But truly, I don't want to say I saw exhausted faces everywhere. What I saw were frustrated people everywhere, because you simply could not get to everything. You've heard of big TV, cinematic TV, peak TV. This was peak Trek. And just as I was not catching up with everybody I wanted to see, including the people that I could have just had 3 minutes with and a selfie and a how you doing, like Lawrence, like Larry, there was so much of that, times 10, times 20. So it's almost a relief now knowing how many series there are, how many actors and creatives have been set loose in the wild because they're not under the studio purview anymore. That's starting to multiply. And we're in the midst of still plenty of active Star Trek happening. And we're in the midst of trying to save Prodigy and save Lower Decks. All of that happening. So STLV is going to be 5 days next year. And it shows. It showed this year. In fact, eventually, and here's our title for the week, eventually people started to feel that and feel how jam-packed it was, thanks to that the second stage being bigger than ever, thanks to the third stage being as packed as ever, thanks to just so many bodies, actors, writers, directors, creatives. I mean, you still got Dave Blass and Liz Koslowski in there storming. Oh my God, with that fan club. So, and then Terry bringing the whole 12 Monkeys cast and all of the Galaxy Quest people. A lot of the Galaxy Quest people were there. You know, the aliens and some of the really brighter, fun character actors. So many people, and so many of the so many of the performers and creatives making their first time at Star Trek. And again, the first 2 or 3 days, I felt like every fourth or fifth person I talked to, either at the table or at the Masquerade bar or whatever, was a first timer. And some professionals who were part of Star Trek at their first STLV, which was all just awesome. Again, you can read what happened on stage, hopefully. Friends at Trek Movie, friends at all the websites are covering everything, and they'll probably be spooling it out for the next few days even. And yes, I know, we just had Comic-Con. We just had Destination in the UK. Dragon Con is coming up. A lot of people were braced for that. But at least there was a couple of weeks respite here. But it really was. This is why my title. By Saturday, by Sunday, this was starting to germinate. People were counting on their hands and feeling this overwhelm for the good. And not just the people that had just been at San Diego. Lots of fresh faces. It wasn't just overlap from fatigue. It's only a sliver of STLV that comes over from Comic-Con. Especially the vendors. But I have to say, people started doing a little math and thinking, okay, we had 2 years of the pandemic. Well, let's do it backwards. Last year, the strikes put a damper on everything. Still people appearing, but we were jumping through those weird hoops of you couldn't mention your franchise show. So you talked about you and your work, and everything else was a wink, wink. We had the strikes last year, which made things odd. 2 years before that, Trek Vegas was at Bally's because of the remodeling at the Rio. That was weird. Oh my God, an old style urban, it was just off-putting. But we did it. Everybody had a good time. But it was strange. And all the first-time people that year who were just over the moon, I said, wonderful, this is great. I'm so glad you're here. It's your first time. Just come back for the Rio, because that's the real Trek Vegas. And the year before that was the first year back from the pandemic. It was at half speed. We were hugely masked, morning, noon, and night. Even in the parties, you were almost afraid to take your mask off to take a drink, much less a bite of food. everybody was eating the microphones to get through the masks. And a lot of people didn't come. It was about half size. Either people were mad that they had to mask, or they were terrified that they had to mask and didn't want to travel yet. And so between both of those factions, the 2022 Vegas, the first one back, was huge social experiment to me. And then the 2 years before that were the pandemic. So we were getting around to saying, you know what? This is the first normal STLV since 2019. And that was a 5-day. And there weren't as many of these latter day stars and creatives, much less some of the earlier day creatives. They weren't on hand, but we also felt like we had a little bit of breathing room too. And there were 3 stages. And some things drew hugely and some didn't, including the main stage. But people basically realized what a crazy 5 years we've been through. I know it's a microcosm for the entire world, right? Forget the pace of change. How about just the pace of zigzagging on what normally used to feel like a straight highway? Anyway, that was a real paradigm moment when people realized how much we've been through. And we're just talking, come on, guys, gals, peeps. We're just talking about, in reality, the little microcosm, the little peephole of our little fandom in our stripe of all society and culture. Okay, I know we're not trying to elevate Trek to it, but within our little circle and our little fandom, our family, the family of those present, and everyone around the country and around the globe who are benefiting from the good vibes, from the social posts, from all the video and the news breaks and everything else that comes out of that. Because that sets a tone for a while. And it's also very reflective, like pandemic, like the strikes. And I don't know, I feel like some of the events of the last month from totally without Star Trek also have people in a better mood. I just felt like, despite the fact that it felt so packed, it was packed for a good thing. It's like when you're on vacation and your car can only go so fast, but it's because you're packed to the gills with good stuff. I don't know. You've been shopping and you're dragging bags, you're exhausted, but you've got good stuff. And it was a very good stuff year. Now, I say that. There were a couple things that marred this one. Very sad. I would like to think this is from outside the family. But the first night, a thief got into the vendor's room. Very smart, very calculated. But our friends at Factory Entertainment, Jordan and Barry and their team, they're the ones that have the huge ships that are carrying those retail. They love to take them to cons, especially Comic-Con. This year they had the Enterprise E as a big ship, but they have the really high-end prototype. They were having prototypes of the assault phaser from Star Trek 5 and 6, prototypes of the Strange New World rifle, some Star Trek Strange New World phaser, 2 or 3 showcase prototype, not to retail yet, were stolen. Stolen at 4 a.m. by somebody who approached a security guard and apparently convinced them that they were legit. And then things were gone. Not huge ships, because how do you carry that? But things that were small enough to bag and conceal. They got hit badly, including one of the team's personal bag that they'd left there accidentally, had medications, had the keys to their vehicle, which was rented. And then 2 nights later, after that wallop, the person came back, tried to use keys in the bag to a room that had people in it, and stole the vehicle. So now U-Haul, and it's insane. I mean, they kept going. They had, plenty of booth there. But it shook people. And I don't know how widely that news got out. I know they posted about it on their socials. But it was. And in the meantime, I heard that, and it was a very calculated hit. They said that people had to have seen where they were placing those and storing things. Somebody had to have come by, either at setup or at teardown, when they were taking down for the night. So was it a fan? I hate to think that. Was it somebody who was smart enough to get themselves inside, who wasn't from the Trek fandom family, but they knew, they looked around or they'd heard high-end stuff at this booth. I don't know. They finally got security camera footage, guy with a hat on, 4 a.m. What's amazing, though, is that he then stole the van. So now the van, it had a tag. Where'd that go? Thinking maybe he'd stashed the bag that night and came back 2 nights later to come get it and claim it, like in the bushes outside somewhere, stash place. I have not heard the latest on this. There might be some legit news in Vegas about all this, but the Factory Entertainment team was shouldering on. That wasn't the only prototype, wasn't the one-off, but the personal stuff was, and the keys in the van hassle was a whole hassle they had to deal with, on top of trying to enjoy Vegas, make some bucks, and enjoy the fandom because they're all fans themselves. That was a downer bit. Maybe somebody else has some other. Oh, and after that first night's hit, I never heard more about this, that things were missing from a total of 11 booths. We were fine. I store all my, a value that anybody might even think was remotely of value. Our giveaway prizes, my photos, but that was a bit of a downer. And even saying that, the place was bubbling, the place was hopping. It was thick. It was thick with Trek joy and fun. And as much as that was a downer, as much as that was, sick, I didn't get to talk to anyone else who supposedly was hit, so I can't speak for everybody, hardly. I'd like to see some mainstream news on this, if not, and maybe someone's telling me right now that I hadn't looked close enough, that there were some maybe Trek Movie has done a story on this. So I'm sorry, gang. I've been in recovery mode, unpacking in recovery mode. Because if you're in SoCal, next weekend is Family Day at Will Rogers on Sunday, August 12th. It's free all afternoon out in the Palisades, just on the north side of Santa Monica, off Sunset Boulevard. If anyone's in the area, come by and see my other passion in life and enjoy the park on its 80th anniversary of transferring from Betty Rogers and the family to the state of California. So pardon me if I have not fully caught up with late-breaking developments. There's also stuff happening in the world at large, you might have noticed. So it was just amazing how many of our normal friends, again, on all sides of the camera, I made a point to see the folks I'd not seen or been trying to get in touch with. Met most of the Discovery Bridge crew, which is great. Kind of left a marker with people. Said hello briefly for longer term. A lot of the voice talent. Disappointed that Mike McMahon didn't make it, but always good to see one Hageman brother in the wild, Dan and Aaron Walke, who very much enjoyed themselves in mixing with fans, I will say. Had a great Prodigy panel, all the panels were great. And you had the Discovery people hoping they didn't feel like they were on their way out. You have the Strange New at the pinnacle. Everybody else is kind of sequestered with the 2 new shows, right? They're really towing the line, but the studio line. But like our friends, Lou and John at Fansets, barely saw them. A lot of the other licensees barely saw them. But on the other hand, it was great to sit between Andy and that row of folks and the Westmores. And sad to say, Mackenzie was ill, and she had the photos. And Mike Westmore didn't feel the need he had anything to do at the table, so they didn't come and sit and sign at the table because they had no photos, which was unfortunate. But he did panels, and I barely said 2 bits to Michael, who's been a good friend, very nicest guy in Hollywood, and been a good friend and a good supporter of everything I do. He supports everybody. He's just such a great guy. And it's good to see him back at Vegas, when a couple of years ago he thought he'd had enough, but he couldn't stay away. He loves Star Trek and he loves the fans. So it was one of those things. Some of the folks with books, some of the authors, some of the people with projects. new vendors. I don't know. It was just a real oomph year. And my biggest takeaway, again, however you see the title, is that we've really been through 3 or 4 really weird, bizarre years. And this felt normal aside from the fact that it was busting at the seams. So we'll see what happens. Good old Masquerade was there. The Rio's renovations, people loved Ipanema Tower. That's fine. I was back in Masquerade. I love the logistics there. People say Ipanema's close to the convention. Well, I only make that walk once a day. Otherwise, the logistics are better for me at the other place. And even though it's not renovated, our room was just fine once again. Masquerade, our beloved landing party, we were missing folks in large measure. But looking at you, John Champion. But still, we're there. It's great to mix in with all the different Patreon groups and the Mission Log bunch. Of course, we had our Portal 47 live dive. Squeezing things in and trying to find those moments is harder than ever. And I wait and see what the landscape is. And we had to change dates and got most of the gang there. Had Dave and Liz come by. Aaron Walke came by. It was so breakneck that I couldn't really have time to see who more of our portal guests and hopefully our future portal guests could make it over. You bribe people with a drink and some apps and they'll technically come. Anyway, I evangelized Trekland to so many folks, but that wasn't even it. It was more as much networking and presenting, being leading or part of 5. Historic moment having 8 of the chroniclers of Trek when you had Mike and Denise, Mark Altman, wound up, surprise, Ed Gross and Jeff Bond, Peter Holmstrom, who just did the Center Seat book. Who am I missing out? I'm leaving someone out. Someone's going to scream at me. It was a lot of chronicling on that stage. And then they were about to tromp off, and I said, whoa, we need a picture. You just said how historic it was. So we did get some group pictures and some goofy wins in a row. I'm hoping you're all enjoying the outpouring, not just from creation and from some of the fan media, Trek Movie and Trek Core and all of them, but you're enjoying just the sheer amount of the cosplay pics and the stage pics from fans, because that's just STLV. And we're looking at all these shows unleashed, a lot of good discussion. I don't know if I got through to folks why it's going to be maybe 3 years before Legacy could even begin to happen. But we don't know how big the pipeline is. And we don't know who's running the pipeline and who's building it on top of that. So I feel like we had some good moments, great moments. So many good people. I personally didn't get to see, but I know, hey, the world spins. They did just fine without me. So if anybody was there, it's in the chat. If you're not already sharing stories, feel free to do so. So let's call it there. I'm so looking forward to next year. I'm so looking forward to how the dust settles on all the changes from this year as far as these program panels, as far as having more beyond the actors being a part of the mix. The regionals that Creation is doing once again, going to be interesting to see how that plays around the country. Is that a barometer of where Star Trek is and it can support that? I'm planning to be back at least at the San Francisco show. I'd love to be in Dallas and Chicago and the East Coast ones, but we'll see what happens there. I'm just excited to be on the cruise and to get to meet the cruise folks and to see so many fans who I knew were cruisers and meet many more and kind of, squee and giggle a little bit that I'm going to finally get to join them and in reverse. So it's funny. Every single fan takes credit for getting me to the cruise. That's there. I've told them for years, you should be there. So it's like, cool. All much appreciated and so much looking forward to that, no matter what happens on the con front between now and next spring. So STLV 2024 is in the books. The first normal Trek Vegas since 2019. And yeah, busting at the seams with all the potential, even with these question marks hanging over us about who's running Paramount and what the whole industry will even look like, because there's a lot of factors in the industry are hurting. A lot of some of the industry below the line folks are leaving LA to go to, now they can't go to Canada because they'd be immigrants, and they're going to hire Canadians first. But moving for Atlanta or New York or wherever. So we will always be in flux, folks. It's never going to be back the way it was. I think that's folly. Anytime you want to go back to the way things were, it's kind of impossible. You can have goals, but you'll never reachieve it. I want to hear what everybody's up to, what you're thinking. And yes, Portales, I've got to get the reminders out, but this is Prime Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable night, so we'll be talking about all this too on tomorrow night. Gang, that's going to do it for right now. If you're watching us later on YouTube, thanks so much. Here's your chance. Leave the comment below. But again, join us sometime on a Tuesday afternoon. Follow, ring the bell, do all the things on YouTube, and you can also catch all my other channels as well, would you? Just so you know, I'm doing this out of order, but since we're here, there you go, gang. And you can be up with whenever I go live for any reason. I didn't do any interviewing this year. There was no time. I wanted to get around and update. I've got a great one with Tony Kim from Hero Within at Comic-Con that I haven't had time to post yet. But I did no live journalism, and I always loved doing. We did some live moments. I did a live from during the landing party on Wednesday night, which was a hoot. Although, again, we did without Terrace and Chris from Geek Nation Tours. We did without John from Roddenberry. But Trek Movie, thank you again for being a co-sponsor of Landing Party and kind of shouldering the bulk this year, along with me shouldering on. But there was very little shouldering because everybody's always in such a damn good mood on Wednesday night. And with 5 nights, Con Eve and Landing Party will shift back to Tuesday night. One more night in the mix next year. Just saying. And I'm also just saying, speaking of new, that we've got new Patreons to get into the mix here. So I just want to thank our Patreons, our TTL Club, okay? Chuck A. and James Kerwin. Thank you for being new TTLers this month, along with, of course, Diana Hopkins, Jesse of Crusher Convo, Lawrence Todd, Halbert Gunjansson, Justin Porteous, Linda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions. I saw you too, Matt. Keith Rombach, Comedy Forecast, Andrew Jazimski, and our live wires, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Alan Hoenzi, James, our new live wire this month, just James, Dave Gregory, Greg Wickstrom, and Casey Shafsky. It's great to see Casey, Dave. Who am I missing? I'm going to leave people out. Who else did I see? Anyway, we just had some live encounters with folks. If you want to jump on this is the biggest, my Patreon, which I keep low key. It's not my end all be all lifeblood. I do it. So if you want to help out and support on a very simple way, you can. I have a very simple system, just $5, $10. I got to get the latest batch of original Portal 47 interviews from a few years back out to the $10 to the live wires. But everybody gets a shout out and everybody gets my thank you. Patreon.com, Trekland Live. We just started a new month. They take it out at the end of the month on your Patreon system billing. And maybe you find other people you like to support too on the Patreon system. It's been around a while. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. I really appreciate that. I've got one tour brewing now, but we're getting into fall. It's a little bit nicer weather, easier to travel for some. I would love for you to come to LA and set up your own away mission. Could be a day experience of a lifetime, not tour sets, but the outdoors, buildings, all the location shots from nearly 60 years of Star Trek. Aside from the Toronto shows, There's over 50. Thank you, Picard, shot in Santa Clarita, for adding to the list after all these years. Come join us. Come just inquire with me, treklandtreks.com. Read about it. Get in touch with me. I will concierge you, do whatever we need for that day. 4 stops, fast food lunch. We take care of everything after we have set it up. I think that's done it. I think that's done it, aside from the fact that, yes, we have another Trek Files up today. It's a Tuesday, once more with my new friend, Dr. Duncan Barrett, PhD in engineering, human engineering, interface, aerospace, aeronautics, teaching at Purdue, and a huge Star Trek fan with a lot to say about Gene's ideas and some of his future Gene speeches. Anyway, we had another great conversation based on a Gene speech from the Gene Roddenberry speech from the 70s, but that's on the Trek Files. Don't forget, it's at our new home. I need to update this, thetrekfiles.com, which actually takes you to our page on Memory Alpha with an audio player and the documents of the week and the hot links to get you back into Memory Alpha from what we're talking about. All right there. Plus our Facebook page, plus all the regular podcast homes, iTunes, Spotify, it's all still there. Take a listen if you would. It was great to meet so many Trekophiles. Hand out a lot of Trekophiles buttons last week at STLV too. So I actually still have a voice after talking again. We're going to take a micro break here. I will dive into the chat after this. But as we leave you watching later on YouTube, especially, just a note to say, thanks for joining us. Try to get us live sometime. Join us down the road whenever you can, or anytime here on my channel. Like and subscribe. Most of all, stay healthy. There's little bubbles of COVID out there. Hopefully not wiping anybody out, but just annoying. And long COVID is still being studied. As well as, just take care of yourselves. It's a stressful world out there. My goodness. And stay woke. Check the sources. The AI deepfake flood is already upon us. Just so much of the stuff now. We have new political headlines every day at this point. So just be savvy about what you see online, would you please? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, trek well, everybody. Thank you. All right. Let's backtrack, back scroll, and see what we got going here. Hi, Chris Gavin. Not your first rodeo on Tuesdays. Howdy to everybody. Oh, there you go. Yes, Sean I'd met a year ago or something, one of our rising stars, but I met Ellie this year from their team. Absolutely, Christian. Yes, R.I.P. Patty Yazataki. Christoph. Okay, it's in the better half. Okay. Hey, David. Good to see you again, man. I don't know. How could you not? That's a double negative question. Rose, I hope you're doing well, my dear. Thank you for coming away all the bus. Actually, no, not comedy. Not too late at all, I think. Yeah, Carl. She had a great smile. Among everything else. Her selfies were great from day one. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, to hear. This really was. This felt way more packed in 4 days than the 4 day. Well, 2019, I think, was still 5 days. Yeah, it was time. It was time. We were through the pandemic, the post-pandemic, and the strike, and again, it was time to go back to what status quo had been. even though the original 5-day was to handle all the 50th hoopla, the 5-0 fever, which was good. Dragon Con is now essentially 4 3/4 days. Ah. Oh, really? FedCon's gone back to 3 days? Okay. There we go. Hi, Joel. Good to see you, sir. Yes. They went bonkers. Adam or Gary are both, they have this fetish about 100 guests, and that's gone out the window the last few years. Funny. Saw a tweet, a guy said he was amazed to be having breakfast besides Jeffrey Combs, but he was had managed to convince him that Jeffrey is too good an actor to be recognized. There you go. But, I gotta say, I saw someone had a T-shirt that said, "I'm being portrayed by Jeffrey Combs." Oh. Yeah, I had heard this dirty rumor it was going to repeat, but next year, thank God, we have the week gap between San Diego and STLV. It's a lot. It's a lot. Even for the battle-tested veterans, it was a lot this year for folks. Yeah, you had the 2020. Hey, Halbjorn, you were there in 2021 in the pandemic. Yes, I feel like the whole weekend we were like tilted at 45-degree angle. Yeah, but you know what? You'll always know. That's the odd bird. You'll always have those stories. I know people were griping about the plastic screening, and they got really good at it. First there was the separations, and then they had the wall like a phone booth or something. But you know what? Those will be, and all of our masks with the pictures with masks, we managed to, unless people did absolutely don't want to, with my friends and with a lot of folks I selfied with, actors and creators both. If we knew each other and trusted each other, we would take one with masks up, and then we would do one with masks down. So we had faces. But you know what? All those mask photos, it's a moment in time. And 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 and 30 years from now, people are going to go, oh, yeah. And everybody younger is going to go, what? Yes. And we had to ration sugar and gasoline. And we had scrap metal drives. It was unpatriotic to sit on your metal. Oh, hey, sure, Donnie. We will celebrate in memory, in honor. We will vibe Power Rangers month with you, of course. No gatekeepers here. No gatekeepers here. Yes, it was. To their credit, they shouldered on. Nobody folded up. They kept their spirits up. They were just, socked in the jaw, but they kept going. Yeah, it was amazing. There was a creation relied on the hotel security, and there was a lapse. I don't know what it was. Don't know if the guy on duty in the security cam where you see the guy come in, the guy with the cap come in. He says he was legit to me. He says, I don't know anything about it. We'll see what happens. The perpetrator sounded pretty savvy until I heard he came back and stole the van that the keys were in the bag to. Well, that's stupid, because now he's got U-Haul to deal with, and whoever they're going to involve, police and their own investigation. And when they eventually find the truck, and is this guy smart enough to wipe his fingers, and the whole thing, leave no clues, leave no potato chip bag with DNA in it, whatever. I mean, hey, I watch TV. I know how this works. James and I had a blast at our panel, I have to say. And we've got good, we're going to be sharing some clips from in fact, we had Dave Blass, we scripted a moment where Dave Blass crashed our Canon panel. It was good, in a good way. It was in a good way. Yeah, they were lurking. They had it posted. So, absolutely tootly. Your post STL blues are settling in, Joel. Yep. Well, you know what? So am I, and so is Janet. I have a wall to finish over there. See the framing right there? That's going to be a wall and a door, pocket door. Yes, this was a moment. I didn't see any main stage. Thank you, David. Bob Picardo called Noga Landau, who's a name you're going to get to know. She's the showrunner on Academy. Picardo called her and put her on speaker. And she was on a call with Alex, and they merged the calls. It felt planned, but very cool. So there you go. And nobody got their panties in a wad about Active Show being on unlicensed con or something stupid. San Diego isn't a licensed convention, but this was a thing. I should have gone on about the Rio. Thank you, Joel. The Rio remodeling did a thing. They have a real food court with more food options. They're not horrifically expensive. The good old, some of the places were still the same. The good old Masquerade Bar was still the same. The All-American Grill, which I always called the Rio Denny's, is now trying to be a little more upscale. It wound up being just a little more expensive, but even more noisier. Anyway, was not my favorite place. Hey, Jim. Boom. Yeah. Wow. Jim, did we get to cross paths? I don't know. Hey, Glenn and Mama Glenn. It was good to see you. Oh, no. Alex is just on their own pins and needles waiting to see about stuff. They have their tarmac. They've got their bullpen mounting, including Tawny's comedy, you know. There you go. There's your logistics. Hash House is there on the walkway. Everything else is on the other end of the con. And yeah, I can see where your mom, that would be pretty hard on her. Hey, Sean, good to see you, man. And that Enterprise in Space logo. Hope all's well. Everybody check out Enterprise in Space. It is still an ongoing project, you betcha. Sorry, Christoph. Sorry. Yeah, Glenn, what I wish is that the old Irish bar we had the first year, it was wonderful. Even had overflow room. But it's still not open. In fact, they were using it for storage. It was open last year as an Italian place, and I was hoping it would have evolved and been stable, but now they're using it for storage while they were doing the recarpet, which, by the way, was not horrendous. I was afraid for lines, but it was fine. Hey, Chris, it was nice of you to drop by. Good deal. Okay. I don't know where home is, but hopefully we'll cross paths live sometime. Hey, Adrian. Hey, Adrian. It's good to see you, girl. I mean, sound off if I'm catching up here. Thank you, Rose. Yeah, there was con crud coming out of San Diego too. Not COVID with a lot of people, but some just good old con crud. Yes, Dragon Con is an old school 24/7, and not just the film. I mean, it's spread out over hotels. The last time I went, it was still the original 3. I haven't been back since 2007 or 2008. Yes, Christoph, there's people reporting in with COVID. It's just annoying, and you still wonder about the long-term effects, but they technically test positive on the sticks. Yeah, when they were back to back I said it was like 6 or 8 years ago. So there's 7. Lot of newbie guests. I hope everyone got served. But Terry and Jay Chataway that we've had on here were there with their book. It was good to see them in person. Again, it was good to see Lawrence, even though I didn't. And the Chataways are back east. They come out here but they live back east. Lawrence is just over here in Palm Springs, so we'll see what happens. Maybe more. That's it. There's all the kerfluffle, as I said last week, about moving San Diego mainly because of the rebellion of the hotels, and it's getting increasingly expensive, and they're not giving fans a break. And if they think the whole market is the industrial, the studios and the industrial clients. Okay. Thanks for that reminder, Sean. Bell Riots next month. Well, in like a month, in 3 weeks. World will feel like it's falling apart, then get back together. So there we go. Oh, thank you, Joel. Awesome. Very nice. Thanks. Can I? I'm going to screenshot you on that one. Yay. We've done that before. We've done it at WonderCon too. That was the first time we had a little planned interaction like that. We'll see what else we can do. Oh, good. Well, our food wasn't bad. Again, the biggest takeaway to me was the noise. Seemed like it was 3 times noisier in there than before. Maybe that was the wall covering, the paneling that they went to. I don't know. Sorry about this. You caught me red-handed or green-handed or blue-handed or cloven-hooved. I'm an audience member, not. One thing about the croak, it's easier to do McCoy, right? Damn it, Jim, I'm an audience member, not a detective. Jim. Thank you, Adrian. You remember. I mean, I only had 1 year there, but it was memorable. And it was big. It had like 3 sections, and you could think of it as one, or you could just do, pool tables and the bandstand, and then the meetup place and the bar tables. You go right ahead. Shout out to Ryan, who was looking pretty fried. I tried to warn him, but he was looking pretty fried by the end of it. Yes. And Anne-Marie running the lounge. Yes. Let's see. Well, if they did, it would only be for the 5 days of STLV, right? It wouldn't be all year long, or they could. Why, thank you, Glenn. Yeah, we have a ball doing that. I think are we getting at the end of the chat? We might be at the end of the chat. Well, I have some news in this regard, Sean. Great idea. More to come. Stay tuned. Or as Rachel says, watch this space. Yeah. What is this? Has there ever been a Dan campaign to get you an honorary doctorate for your fan research, or the body of work amounts to a PhD? You mean a fan campaign? I don't know. Dan can do what? Dan Madsen? Is that what we're talking here? Dan Madsen deserves an honorary doctorate for his panel. Well, it was great to have that panel and be together. And I've still got to do my photo dump. I don't know that did I do any photos along the way? I think I put up a live. It's like you hit the ground running for Landing Party, and I managed to promote that a little bit. But I got to put up our team winners. It was funny because the first place team, anybody on right here? the first place team in landing party, which is not a trivia contest. It's like, here's a sheet. Well, here. There you go right there. This is the key sheet, but it's meant to be 1-page paper, 20 questions with varying points. You get 20 minutes, boom, go. And we had 11 impromptu teams. Some teams are together. And once again, this year, the top team, the self-sealing stem bolts, wound up all being Portal members. So that one of the prizes is 2 free months in Portal 47. So they've handed it off to one of Dr. Dave's PhD students, one of the doctoral students. But it was funny. And somebody said, well, that's a great commercial for Portal. It's like, I can't take credit for these people. Was it Marina, Dr. Dave, Robert, Cairo here, and oh no, who was the fourth? They were all Portal members. Someone's going to shoot me now. Anyway, I think are we at the? Oh, thank you, Joel. Joel, what was the name of the team? I've got it written down. Oh, it's on my camera. I can't see. We had the Boopsies. And we had, what was it? Moopsie's Dessert, something. We're another team. May, you just got back from the airport. Did you do the Monday around the pool tradition? It was great to see you there too, May. Thanks for saying hi. Anyway, I think we are at the end of the line, MCPing here. Hey, Adrian, I'm so excited for this about the Hollywood Sound Museum. And unlike some people I know trying to start something like this, I know your business plan is sound. I will. Adrian, you ping me if I forget to ping you, okay? Can't wait for that. And I may bring some visitors, okay? Oopsies. Yes. Yay. I did. Somehow I remember that. Absolutely. And there we go. You're welcome. Okay, everybody. I think that's going to do it. I hope. Now I realize that I should have checked to see if there was any news coverage or any news updates, or just check in with everybody. I didn't check in with anybody. It's friggin' Tuesday now. It's Sunday going away is 2 whole days ago. So we'll see. But I suggest, as always, follow all these people's socials. Instagram is the new Twitter and Facebook, but still some do Twitter and Facebook. I refuse to say X, just as we refuse to say the Lapa Lounge instead of the iBar. If you're familiar at all with the Rio, the iBar was remodeled. The arena bar, it's right there behind the front desk, and it's kind of open. And they took away the level. They brought it down. They took out the built-in conversation pits and just put chairs and sofas in. And it's a little clunkier. You get a little bit of the feel, but it's not elevated, and people miss that. And I know my friend Ken, Mac OS Ken, and Allison from the original Daily Star Trek News owner. It was good to see them again, for one thing. But Ken thought it was strange for not calling it. The new name is Lapa Lounge. Call it Lapa. But everybody familiar was still calling it the iBar. So we'll see is that going to be a mark of distinction of the veterans 5 years from now, the people who still call it the iBar. That'll be funny. I hope they don't touch Masquerade. I hope, if anything, they make it a little bigger. But it's something. It's fun to see the Masquerade pack and then spill over down to the tile. And when it's Wednesday night, and even Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the mundanes coming along trying to navigate the main curving corridor. Anyway, it's all STLV. It's done for another year. Memories, photos. We'll see what happens between now and next year with Trek, with entertainment. It's like a barometer. And now we look back and we talk about the pandemic and the post-pandemic and the strike. And it's really handy as a marker that way. And when you go further back, I can connect it to the eras of StarTrek.com and Communicator and the fan club, and who were the merchants and the licensees, and of course, the moments like Leonard Nimoy's last STLV, and he didn't talk about Star Trek. He did a career retrospective and wanted to talk about. I mean, there are some moments that stand out in my mind, and just the evolutions of fans and companies and the productions and the actors and the ups and downs. This is such a huge year. I feel like my lifelong mission to expose, right, for like the portal. I feel like it finally got heard. And as the weekend wore on, I went from feeling miffed that I wasn't more in the middle of it to being relieved that I wasn't. Mark and Darren and their team looked exhausted. I know Ryan, I know Anne Marie were tired doing theirs. And it's like, you know what? I'll just keep doing my niche here. Someday we'll some of the things we did on the little stage needed to be on the big stage. So things are evolving, things are happening, and meanwhile, we'll just see how the cruise goes. We'll see how the year, all the cons now and then, all the regional branch outs, how they do. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And we will see what happens. My biggest, again, Patreon yet. Again, another huge thank you. Look at that. You guys know. This is the most names on this card in ages. So thank you, everybody coming in where you can. It's $5. It's $10. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Been a quiet year for tours, but maybe that's going to pick up now if spirits rise. If you are thinking about getting your way to LA and you have a day to spare and you want to have a customized away mission of your own, led by Dr. Trek, just check out TreklandTreks.com. Or get to my page, LarryNemecek.com, and you can see everything Trekland going on. I finally updated my postcard for the table. Yay. And of course, this week's Trek Files is up. Duncan Barrett, really funny guy, good old school Trek fan, and a professor who's into all things futuristic, like engineering, aerospace, technology, human interface engineering, like ergonomics. And just some pretty good broad-based opinions and philosophies about humanity and the Star Trek interaction. Check out the Trek Files. And of course, our new page, our new home, but we still have all the other ones at Memory Alpha at thetrekfiles.com. That is it for me, gang. This Tuesday, hopefully by next Tuesday, I'll have some more croak recovery time. Meanwhile, I'll be on all the socials, right? Twitter and internet. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, please ring the bell and do all the things. Would you please? And hey, check out portal47.net. We have a couple of 2 or 3 winners of freebies in the drawing that's on the way. But meanwhile, we'll see you later, gang. Stay tuned. We will be in touch. Will more of the wall be done next week? I'll let you know. And stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay woke. Check your sources. And trek well, everybody.